So welcome back to the 20-something podcast. Doing something a little different today, which we've not done before on the podcast. I've invited one of our guests back, Conor, who is a recent guest who was just on a couple of weeks ago, but we spoke a lot about his entrepreneur journey, but I don't think we deep dived into it enough. So I thought it'd be amazing to have Conor back on because it was a really great episode. If you haven't listened yet, please do. It was 2 episodes back, I think. So take a listen before you listen to this one if you haven't already. If you have, you'll be very happy to know that Conor is back with all his wisdom and knowledge, and we will get stuck in. So Conor, welcome back to the 20-something podcast.
Thank you very much. Really happy to be back.
Good.
And I've loved the last couple of episodes as well that came out as well.
Good, so good. We were just saying, hopefully this will just be a great chat and we'll just cover everything that we didn't last time because the time just goes so quickly. We have like a little timer here in the studio and you see it going down and it just flies.
It was crazy how quickly it went down.
Yeah.
I remember looking down and going, oh, I've got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've got to go. Cool. So, as I said, if anyone hasn't listened, I always start my podcast by asking people to give an overview of their 20s. So if you just give a little slight brief overview in case anyone hasn't listened, and if they have, they probably already know who you are.
Amazing. So I'm obviously 26, so I haven't had all my 20s yet.
Yeah.
I started a business age 22, I believe, 21, 22 maybe. Mm-hmm. And now that's gone on to, we've had a successful small group personal training gym for 3 years now. That's been open 3 years. We're obviously looking to expand now to the second one and move on forward. I was training to be a teacher before that, so was a PE teacher in a primary school. And obviously during COVID, just had that flip and change to become an entrepreneur. So that's a quick overview.
Yeah,
but
no, that's perfect. Yeah. Cool. So you touched on there that you were a teacher before. As I said in a previous episode, we spoke a lot about that. But moving on from being a teacher, how did you know, like, from that day that you started your business, like how did you know where to start?
I think knowing where to start is a difficult one. Obviously when COVID happened, I think I was touching this in the last podcast, it was a case of either go in on something or sort of lounge around in a way. And I have to be doing something. So for me, I just went in on my personal trainer qualification and just did really long days. So it would be from 6 a.m. all the way through to like 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, just doing one-to-one PT, just because we were one of the jobs who could still work. We went outside on the beach, on the seafront. There was like an outdoor gym there. And cold, frosty days. But it was a brilliant way of sort of me understanding that, no, I can do something. And when I put my all into something, how successful it could be. So that was a sort of snippet bit. And then I had the choice once COVID finished was, am I going to go all in or am I just going to sort of go back to what I was doing? And I took the leap to go all in on the business.
Nice. And when you start with that, in terms of, so I'm from like a marketing branding background, for someone who maybe doesn't have that experience, where do you start with things like that, for example, or your finances or your social media or
I mean, it's funny. I think lots of people think you need lots of money to start a business. In reality, you definitely don't. You just need to be 100% committed. So really go in on what you want to do, post it everywhere on social media, and really that will get you enough success and traction. And once the money's in, then you can start reinvesting that back into the business. But to start with, you don't really want to be, if you don't have the money, you can't use the money. So first thing is just be 100% committed in what you want to do, plan everything out and really have a vision of what you're trying to achieve and then make little goals after that. And then you can sort of try and tick them off as you go. But I think the biggest mistake people make is they go get a massive loan and then try and do something when actually they've not even tried it without getting the money yet already, if that makes sense. So, take personal training, for example. I could post loads of things on social media. I could potentially do an ad which might cost £500, let's say, but I may not have the £500 when starting a business. It'd be better off doing loads of free sessions for people, putting that all over your social media and hoping that 1 or 2 people come in. If they do come in, then you can reinvest that money into adverts and things and then really start pushing. But to start with, I wouldn't waste money. I would just be committed in what you want to do and decide sort of to go, like I said before, just go all in with what you're trying to achieve.
And did you feel a bit like a one-man band at the beginning? Because
I was massively a one-man band. It was me and that's everything. It. And I think that's important. I think you have to go through that stage because if you don't, you sort of will never know when you bring people on board, which you will do as the business grows, naturally you're going to get employees and things like that. You're not going to know what targets they need to hit if you don't have even a small amount of knowledge in all those areas. At some point, you need to wear every single hat in the business. So that sort of foundation phase of growing the business, whether it be, obviously I was a one-to-one coach before the gym, so the gym was slightly different, but obviously I had to be every single part of the business as a one-to-one coach, and I think that's the foundation phase. Like I learned a lot in that time, and then I could sort of move that on to owning a gym.
Yeah, I think it kind of sets the standard as well, because then definitely. You know, like I said, with like your marketing, for example, if you've done some of it yourself, you then know like what you want your brand to be like for if someone else then comes in. You've got that standard of like, okay, well, I can do this myself. If you're a professional in this, it can be even better, or this is kind of the standard we've set, and then you can kind of grow it from there. So I think that's so true. You've got to be able to have eyes on everything.
Yeah, definitely. And no one's going to care as much as you. Like, you're going to be the person who really cares about the business. Like it's your baby. Sounds strange, but even people who are closest to you, who want you to be successful, you will be the person who cares the most. They will want you to be successful, but really you're the one who will put every little detail in, who will make sure, you take it into my business, the gym, make sure the gym's always clean, make sure everything's in the right place, make sure when I leave, everything looks nice. Like it's those little sort of habits and those little tendencies that people have, which if someone else was in there working, like just, it's just their job, they may not do those tiny little things. You can get great employees, and we've got great employees at the gym, but obviously it's a laughing joke in the gym that I'm really picky. And I think that just comes from it being the thing I really care about. And that is, well, really my life has gone into that. So, and that if you own a business, naturally, it would be the same for other businesses as well.
I can kind of relate to that, because I think I just mentioned a minute ago when I had my dad on the podcast, he said that as well, that one of the things he found kind of difficult was delegating, and he ran his business because as an entrepreneur, it was his baby, and he felt like he could do everything better than everyone, which I don't know if it's like the best attitude, but it is hard to it's hard to be able to delegate. And I don't know if you felt the same, like you can clean that floor better, so I'll just do it, or I can do that better, so I'll just do it. Like you just want to do everything, but you can't.
No, 100%. And that's a really difficult period. Like telling people to do something that, especially at the start, they won't be as good as you. It's really difficult to sort of let go and not be there, not keeping an eye on them. But really, like, and again, I can only really go back to the business I'm running at the moment. It would be a negative if, in the long run, I'm not the best coach in the building. So I should give my coaches everything that they need to succeed. So the right courses, the right mentorship, the right guidance in regards to communications and things like this. Because the last thing I need is myself holding the business back.
Yeah.
If I've got loads of members saying, I only want to train with Conor, then if I open a second gym, which hopefully we do fairly soon, if we open a second gym, I can't split myself in half, so I can't be everywhere. So it's more about working on the business instead of in the business. And that's the sort of transition I've been going through recently. Yeah,
that's really interesting, because I think some of the other people we've had on as well have spoken about learning that people do have different skills, and with that delegating, there's going to be people who are better than you at certain things, like you touched on before about like the finances. So you've got to be able to delegate that somehow, because somebody's going to know more about finance or marketing or PR or whatever it is than you do.
Yeah, definitely.
Which, I don't know, it's hard to kind of take sometimes, but you've got to trust that to be able to hand it over to people as well. And I know even like you mentioned Ben Francis before from Gymshark. I know that I think he stepped down. He's not CEO anymore.
No, I don't think. Or I think he recently taken it back or something. Yeah.
But and there's been quite a few big entrepreneurs like that, and they've actually taken a step into a different position because they know that somebody else can run it differently, or a different perspective, or can kind of lead on the product team or the design team better than they can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the best things I did was, on my first hires, was we hired a videographer, because my social media skills were just, I was enthusiastic, but they were so bad. I look back at some of those videos and the lighting's shocking, and I'd be willing to learn more into it, but that wasn't where the value was at the time. So best thing I did was, it was one of the first hires we did, was we got a videographer, and our social media and marketing just went through the roof. Like, he's brilliant at what he does, and like some of the videos he makes are so, I guess, crisp. But I couldn't do it. I know he's obviously got all the equipment and it costs us money to have, but he's been a big game changer for the business and how people see the business. I think really a lot of getting leads in is perception. Obviously, our service is brilliant, but the only way you're going to get people to the business is if you market it properly.
Exactly.
So if our marketing look shoddy, people are going to think our service is shoddy. So that's got to be a priority as well. So obviously, service is always going to come first, because if your service is rubbish, but you've got to get people through the door. So they go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's so true. And you touched on before about the business kind of being your baby. So with that, do you feel like there's been sacrifices that you make, or maybe you still make, I don't know what they might be around, because that is your baby and kind of everything goes into it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you make lots of sacrifices. Social life being one. Obviously, I touched on before, like that doesn't mean don't ever go out, but you just need to think about who you're around. So think about, I do believe that you are the average of your five people you spend most of your time with. So if you're looking to be someone who's quite driven, then be around other driven people. If you're looking for someone who, potentially doesn't want to go out at the weekend, try and find people who don't go out as much at the weekends and who are really there for you. That's a big thing. But sacrifice as well, like naturally, obviously, even though I'm in health and fitness, my sleep pattern is not ideal. My routine's brilliant, but if work needs to be done, I'm very bad at like just staying on a laptop and just cracking on and something like, oh my God, it's 11 o'clock, which 11 o'clock don't sound late for some people, but I obviously wake up at 4:30. So that then takes a lot out of me. And I think, but at this age, like I said before, we've got the energy to do it now. So I think I've got to go all in at this age, make sure that everything else in life is correct. So food's good. So I'm eating good, healthy, whole foods, and I'm making sure I live as much in a routine as I can. So if I am slightly burning the sleep occasionally, because sometimes some days look very different to others. So some days that you just got to go all in on work, and whatever time you got to go to sleep, you got to go to sleep then. And I think that's sort of a strange sacrifice. It's not one that people think about. And I think obviously the social life is a big one, but naturally I think that's actually helped me. I wasn't really that bothered. I now only see the people I want to see, and my true friends are the ones who obviously I see quite a lot, and actually some of the people I see once every 6 months. They really are the people who you see them once every 6 months, but things don't change. And I think that's quite nice. But then on the flip side, people don't always look at themselves. And I think my sleep is probably something naturally I've sacrificed in a negative, but I'll get to a point where it gets back to normal.
Go on holiday, get some sleep.
Yeah, exactly that. But at the moment, I feel good. I still make sure I get like at least 6 hours, but that some days it changes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it could be better. And I don't know if on the weekend you kind of make up for it, or are you at the gym 7 days a week?
It depends what he's doing. At the moment, we're in a stage which is really, really busy.
Yeah.
I think the last time I spoke to you, I was in this sort of like transitional period where I sort of had the odd hour here and there, and like my life can change in a 2-week period depending on certain decisions I decide to make in the business.
Yeah.
So I put it on myself. It's no one else. but the business, like I said, the business is my baby. So I'm going to put that has to go first. And it's just a case of if work needs to get done, then I need to get it done, and if it doesn't, then I'm holding the business back. So I think at my age I can do it, but I know there will come to a point where I won't be able to anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why it's even more important to keep growing, growing to a point where actually, if I went away for 3 weeks, I know the business is still running. So at the moment, I could, but I would be worried.
Yeah,
so
you wouldn't switch off.
Yeah, and I think that's an age thing. But really, it's a case of if I can get the business to that point, then even better, I can have a little bit more routine. Really.
Yeah, and in terms of like your home life, your family, are they all very supportive? Because obviously, if you're all in on that, do you have time just to relax and rest at home?
They are super supportive.
Yeah.
I mean, my mum and dad, they come to the gym. And they come like 3 times a week. They love it. And my partner as well. She's brilliant. Like, I mean, obviously she's asleep when I leave.
Yeah.
And I get back about 9 o'clock. So during the week till a Saturday, it's not great. So in terms of when I say not great, that sounds bad. I mean, not great in terms of I'm obviously not really there. But she's super understanding with that stuff as well. So she knows that I'm not going to be obviously helping around the house as much as probably she would want to. But at the weekend, we make sure that's where we get our sort of social stuff in. And my brain, I think sometimes she can get annoyed with the fact that my brain is like, we might be having a conversation and I'm thinking about something to do with the business. And I might just go off.
Hello.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that. But she understands that it's my baby is what I really care about. And I've worked so hard to get to where it is. And I think she's, we've been together 6 years now. Wow. So it's been a long time. And she's sort of seen it grow really from one fun business to now. So yeah, she's very, very supportive.
Yeah, no, that's something my dad touched on as well. He's been very lucky to have my mum kind of behind him, and he always said like he wouldn't have got his business to where it was without her and that side as well. And I think it is so important because I can imagine it is a lot of sacrifice during the week, especially if you're not at home much and all of those things. So credit to both of you for making that work and being so supportive.
It's funny, like she doesn't do anything like for the business, but it's more if I would say it's more if she was getting annoyed at the fact that I was working so hard, then that would be a negative. And I think a lot of people would. So her being that understanding pushes me on to be able to work as hard as I do and achieve some of the stuff I've achieved at the age I have. So if I didn't have that sort of stability, I probably wouldn't be as confident to push on through. So without I probably don't tell her enough, to be honest. But it is very
shout out to Conor's girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. She's very supportive.
Oh, good. Well, I think this kind of helps segue onto. I wanted to touch on a bit of the highs and lows of your journey as well. And we were talking before, and I was saying a stat that I've been looking up this morning that 1 in 5 or 20% of businesses fail within the first year. You're obviously past that first year mark. I think you said you were 3 years into it with your PT studio, but how do you think you've kind of got past that point and you're the percentage that haven't failed? And have there been highs and lows on that journey?
There's been massive highs and lows. I would say, how have I got past that point? Commitment is definitely one. Discipline is another. So they're the sort of brackets that I think loads of people talk about on social media. But really, it's just being super picky and making sure that like everything is professional and you're putting service first. So all your members are. So for me in the gym industry, all my members are happy. I'm getting feedback from the members. I get feedback for the new people who come in as to where they were before, what they didn't like. Jot all those things down. Like think of every little thing that you can think of that could progress the business on. If you're sort of doing that, there's no pages unturned. So if I just ignored it and went, oh, we're really good, so that's all right. Lots will come through. We'll get loads of members. You can't look like that. You need to be really picky on both the business and yourself. And I think naturally that sort of sped us up, like took us ahead quite quickly. And I think discipline is massive. Making sure you're doing the little things right every day within yourself and within your business. So getting all like essentially the bigger jobs done first. So can you get all your main jobs, the hard ones, done early morning, so that's finished, and then you can tick off all the little jobs throughout the rest of the day. Like work out where you're best at working, basically, and that naturally will push you forward a little bit more. But just be really picky on yourself, and just really put service first, because that's the main thing. That's what will make people keep coming back. If I just went, oh, gym's great, let's just plod on, we get loads of members, it just wouldn't have carried on really. But if we're looking at highs and lows, the high strangely is every day. Going in and seeing, for example, Grace or Marcus taking a session and they're cracking on, the members are happy, like that's so motivational for me to see like our coaches coaching and the business running without me there. It sounds strange, but it's really motivational. And our community events are amazing. So we host these community events where we have like loads of members come down. We've never had one where every single member's been there because obviously people have lives. But we might have like 80 members go to, I don't know, the horse racing, or we do a Tough Mudder we did recently. That was really good. We had 40 odd members doing that. And, Christmas parties, like they're real big highs because you see everything there and it's brilliant. Lows, I think there are lows quite a lot of the time in terms of stresses. You know, even now when we lose a member, like it doesn't really affect us financially and at all, but we still want to keep them, and we don't really have people leave. We've never had anyone leave for a negative reason. It tends to be people moving away or lifestyles change, or unfortunately someone's lost their job. But we stay in contact with them, and because we're a more personal gym, we're in small groups of 6, and naturally we will. And but that's still obviously a low. But just general stresses, like I think I touched on before, like we were going to open a second gym, and that fell through on my birthday, and that was a massive low. But then again, if I sit back and go, actually, I'm annoyed about opening a second gym. Most 26-year-olds don't have a gym. Yeah. It puts it in perspective a little bit. So there's lows every day in terms of stresses and things like that. But I would say the highs massively, massively outweigh them.
Would you say you're resilient? And has it grown since you've had a business?
My resilience definitely, 100% has grown. Mentally as well, I've matured an awful lot. I would say from COVID to now, like that naturally, I would say I've grown up probably quicker. Some people probably say quicker than I should have done. I'm starting to take life maybe sometimes a little bit too seriously. But I'm definitely getting better at that now. Now obviously got staff and things like that. It's much easier for me to be able to relax a little bit more. But it's you naturally become more resilient. You don't take things to heart anymore. I think one of the best things I got told, and it sounds strange, but think of, in a healthy way, think of everything as your fault. And what I mean by that is, obviously not everything's going to be your fault, but if it's raining outside and you get wet and you've not taken a coat, be like, oh, I should have brought a coat. Not, oh, it's raining, my days got worse. Flip it to, what could I have done differently? Okay, I didn't do that. Let's go about the day. So when I know a member's not signed up or a lease hasn't gone through, it's not the other person's fault. It's not them leaving. That's their choice. They have the right to do that. It's then looking back at what I could have done differently and then learning from that. Not giving myself a hard time, but learning from it. So I definitely, when I was younger, especially when I play sports or things like that, would find excuses. I think if you can live a life of no excuses, naturally, one, you don't get annoyed as much with things because it's not always, it's not someone else's fault, but it's also good to look back at yourself and learn from those sort of little mistakes or instances where you may have got annoyed at other things, basically.
Yeah, I think it's just about taking ownership, isn't it? I've definitely 100%. Read that. I can't remember what book it is now, but one of the key things to succeed in life or in business is to take ownership of every single decision you make. Because you say, I really like that. Oh, I got wet. I didn't have my raincoat, but that's because you didn't pack it. Or I didn't enjoy my lunch, or I had to buy lunch again and spend money. That's because you didn't prep your lunch. It's like every decision can be yours, and you've just got to take ownership of that. Yeah,
there is a way of taking ownership of everything. So, and I mean, I'm probably not so good at it on a golf course. Still now I go, oh, why don't I get that bounce or such and such? That's slightly different. But in life, it's like everything, especially business, taking ownership of everything will put you 2-3 steps ahead of other people because you're able to learn from that mistake, move on quickly and go, what can I do differently? And then it won't happen again. The raincoat idea is a good idea. It's a good analogy because people understand it. But that is a good way of looking at it because, it's not your fault it's raining. You could have packed a raincoat, could have packed an umbrella. Yeah. So it's just a flip side of going, actually, it's not the fact it's raining. The rain shouldn't ruin my day. I've ruined my day because I haven't packed the right stuff. I'm not prepared. So it's about preparing for everything, basically. Yeah. I think another thing I got told was failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So if you prepare for everything, then you're sort of just creating this armor of stuff to make sure that you're as bulletproof as possible going into whatever venture you want to.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. I even said that to you before here. I always make loads of notes because I have questions in mind that I want to ask, but I always make sure I've got enough notes or information about my guest because I don't know on this podcast I'm going to get someone who gives me one-word answers. Especially if I've never met them before. So I have to be so prepared, and people might not realise how much kind of work goes in behind the scenes. But 100%. I have to make sure I've covered my back so that I can deliver a good episode because I've paid for the studio and I want my listeners to enjoy the episode coming up. So even that, I then feel a lot more confident and comfortable going into a recording session because I'm like, I've prepared, I've
you're
got
ready,
all this information. I know from your Instagram that you've done this and this that I can talk about, or, you know, just,
It's the
preparing.
finer details, basically. And people may look at you now and go, I wish I was doing what Becca's doing. And they may just see it as Becca, like, hires a studio, gets someone in, and then just have a chat. But it's not. I was quite surprised the first time I came up how much you knew about what I'd done before, and obviously like looking through the Instagram and finding that stuff out, and the questions prepared. Like,
I knew your website like back of my hand.
There you go. But it's those little details which make this podcast so good, which makes businesses step ahead of someone else because they're looking at the finer details. I think some people think, especially in my industry, I think, go back to when I was one-to-one, they just go, I'll just put my name on it and put PT at the end, and then I'll get loads of people message me. It doesn't work like that. People need to know you're going to get results, whether that be physical results or even they're just going to enjoy your training. You're a nice person. You can't just put PT on the end of your name and expect people to come forward. It's all those little details. Maybe hang out in the places that with the people that you want to train. Learn sort of what their I guess things they're trying to fix, so their goals, their targets, their problems, and you can just post that all on your social media. Now people are looking at going, oh, this guy knows me. This guy knows what I want to fix, and then naturally you've got that rapport already. So it's those little details make such a big difference.
It's so true. It's so true. The little details are everything. I think we touched on that a lot in the last episode with little details, little habits, and how actually it can change your life so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, I wanted to touch on a bit about growth and expansion when it comes to business, because you touched on it in our last episode and you just said it there, that your second studio fell through. But I wanted to go back a little bit, and with business, how do you know that it's the right time to expand, and where do you start with expansion?
So if you go expansion, there's definitely easier to know a right time on expansion. If you go starting a business, you will never know if there's a right time. It's more, that's the scariest jump. The scariest jump was going, right, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to go full time on my business. That was obviously the scariest jump to make. So expansion is a slightly different feeling. I knew it when, I wouldn't say I was getting, bored's the wrong word, but I was getting slightly, I need to be pushing all the time. And I think my brain, the way my brain works is I'm not very good at sitting back and going and being content. Like, my mum hates it. She's always like, you never like fulfill, you never happy, you're never happy. Just like, and I think I've just come to realization that's me. And I think it doesn't mean I'm never happy. No, I'm happy in certain occasions, but I will always want the business to be that step ahead where it is. And I think you need that drive to be able to keep pushing. And I got myself to a point with the current gym where I was like, actually, we've got something really good here. We've got great systems. We've now got great coaches. We've got brilliant members who support the business. And I'm now sat there going, actually, I'm ready to make the next step as well. And obviously I've started leading the sort of the two coaches and the videographer, and that massively has helped me give me the confidence of going, actually, that I'm ready to go to the next step. I think I spoke to you earlier, I'd like 3 gyms before I'm 30. That's a massive aim for me. And I think if I can get there as naturally we are going to need investment, because I think it's a slightly more safer option and the wiser option. You can expand quicker and better when you have other people on your side. But if I can do that with as little investment as possible, as much of it still being me and my control and my vision, then I think 3 is more than achievable. And then once we get there, well, probably be before we get there, to be honest, but once we're sort of around that we can reassess and go, right, do we want more gyms? Do we want something different? What are we looking to achieve in the long-term goal, which we've actually started sort of sitting down now and looking at, because you, like I said, you have to be that 1, 2, 3 steps ahead all the time, because if you don't know the destination, you don't know what you're planning for. And I think that's such a big thing. I think if you want to, let's say if someone said, oh, I'm working so hard on this, and someone went, why? You go, oh, I don't know. You got to know what you want to achieve, and then you can put the plan in place to achieve that. So it's that reverse engineering. So like, go, what do you want? Who do you want to become? And how do you get to those 2 things? And what would you naturally put yourself through to get to those 2 things? So that's a really good way of sort of understanding expansion. But I think expansion, I knew when I was watching the gym and going, right, no, we are ready. I think there is a time there where you go, actually, I'm ready. And it is scarier because naturally we have 2 or 3 other coaches, more admin staff. So, wages are probably going to be probably more than the current gym because I won't be there as much. So, there's more people who then rely on you to pay their bills. More people rely on you to progress their career because they're not going to want to stand still as well. Not everyone wants to be a business owner, but everyone wants to progress. So whether that be financially or just generally being a better employee, person, coach in obviously in our practice. So it's quite good it's just making sure we give them that as well. And we're not just saying, "Oh, come to us and benefit me." It's no. If you come to us, if you become a coach at our gym or, front of house or admin staff at our gym, we're going to give you everything you need to progress on as much as you can. If that's with us, great. If in 5-10 years' time they get offered something so much better, then we'll be the first to go, congratulations. Off you go.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think that's so important. I think that's actually something I've learned as I've got older as well through my 20s. I think when I first finished uni, I was so like, I just want to get a job. I just want to start working. And when I was going for interviews, I was almost like just jumping as soon as they would offer you a job. You're like, yeah, take it. And actually, as I've got older and different job interviews I've gone to, I've realised actually how important it is for you to want to work at the place as well. And the company is actually selling themselves to you as well. Definitely. And I think that definitely comes with age and experience because I never had that when I was younger. I said I would just kind of jump at the opportunity. But now I'm like, actually, do I want to work at this place? What can they offer me as much as me offering them? So I think that's so important that you've got that kind of plan for your employees and your coaches as well, because it's so true. And I think I always see online like, our generation kind of demanding more. And I think it's good that we are, because you do need more from work. It's not just you want to work at a business. They've got to be able to offer stuff for you as well, but that's like a balance, like working from home or kind of benefits like healthcare or other things that you're going to get, childcare, paternity leave, all of these things. It's so important that you are asking for more, and that's probably something you're 100%. Learning as well with your coaches.
I just look at it as, if I give them more, not necessarily more.
You invest in them, they'll invest in them.
It's going to help me.
Yeah.
And we're going to get more buy-in into the business. I don't quite understand. We've obviously got lots of different members in the gym. Some of them come in and like, they don't like their job. Others really like their job. And really the main difference I hear from the two is the people who don't like their job don't get the respect back from their managers. So these people, if I didn't have those people, I wouldn't have the gym that I have. So they are super important to the gym. And I don't always think it's financial, like even just going, oh, here's a bit more money, that doesn't actually mentally fulfill people. It's about helping them grow, like as a person, as a coach, and as an employee. I think that's the main thing, to be honest. It's not just here's 5 more grand, have another 5 grand a year.
That's just, like a short term.
That's a way of getting them to go, oh, be quiet, go away. But actually going, this is what we're going to do. Here's your plan. This is what we want. This is where we expect you to be in 5 years' time, and this is the steps you can take to get there. So they know what path they need to do to, let's say, become a gym manager, or just progress from even a simple progression from a junior coach to a coach, like how they get from that position to the next position, and they have that buy-in of really knowing that we care about them, and then they care about us, and then you've got more people selling the business on a day-to-day life. If they hate their job, they're not going to sell their business to someone unless they have to go out for dinner with their family, or just go down the cafe and they bump into someone. They go, oh, CV Training Club on the back of it. Where's that? They might go, oh, yeah, it's all right. But if we get all this buy-in, they'll be like, oh, it's where I work. I love it. Come down. Come for a free look around the gym if you want. And then you might just have more people coming in.
Yeah,
it's like going back to the first step. It's those little tiny details.
Little details, yeah.
Just make such a difference.
Yeah, well, you've spoken a lot about reinvesting in your staff and your people, but how important is it to reinvest in the business, but in terms of that growth as well? Because I know you said you want to get as little investment as possible.
Yeah.
So how important is that reinvestment? I know it can probably be very tempting when you make a profit just to be like, oh, I could buy a new car or I could do this, but how important is that to actually put it back in?
One of the best quotes I ever got told was, spend more to make more. That doesn't mean get yourself into debt. It means if you've got money there, treat yourself as an employee. I have a set amount that I pay myself. in both salary and dividends. I know exactly how much I'm going to take out of the business every year, and everything else is in the business. Whether that go into our emergency fund to make sure the business is safe and secure, which we've had now for ages, so we've not luckily never had to touch it. Anything else, we can go, right, we're going to stick that all in our reinvestment, stick it into budgets. This much is going to marketing, this much is going into our general equipment, just making sure things are nice. And just the more we spend in those places, the better the gym's going to be. So naturally, the more people you're going to get in, or the quicker you can grow. And I think if I was being really greedy, I could take a load of money out of the business, more money than I need, go buy a lovely car, let's say. But actually, what are people going to think about me? And also, two, I could be in a position where loads of members go, and then I'm like, hang on a minute, we've got no money in the business. We've got these people to pay. And that would just be in a very sticky situation. But reinvesting in both the business and actually yourself, you'll grow so much more than if you just sort of try to ride the wave, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So reinvestment is really, really important.
Yeah. And is that something you think you knew at the beginning, or something you've learned over time?
Definitely, I knew at the beginning, but I didn't realise how important it was. So I remember when we first took on, before we actually took on a videographer, we took on a marketing agency, and I think it cost us $8,500 for the year, which actually, now looking back at it, wasn't crazy. But at the time, for me, it was like a lot of money, and it was like, oh, I don't really know if this is worth it. And like 3 months' time, they changed the business by about an extra $5,000 to $7,000 a month monthly recurring revenue. And it was like, hang on a minute, I've spent 8.5, and now I've got $5,000 to $7,000 a month extra every month. It was that was the sort of game changer where I was like, hang on, this is really important. Like reinvesting is so important. So that was a big change, really. And you don't get that every month. They're not going to be able to generate that every single month for you. But at the start, it's eye-opening, really. And then obviously we went, right, actually, let's put even more money into it. And then, sort of change the game, really.
Goes from there. It's just knowing kind of where to invest, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And you've got to do that through the little points when you sit down and look at your business. Like, where do you need help, basically? Do we need help in different areas? And then try and find the people who can help you in those areas.
Yeah, and kind of learning as you go. I'm sure definitely. You feel like you're still learning every day.
100%. The business has never been as big as it is today.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, the business will never be as big as it is tomorrow. And hopefully that goes every single day. So every day I'm learning.
Yeah.
And obviously for me, we're hopefully quite close to getting the second one. We're going through sort of like talks and stuff at the moment. And if we get that, I've never been a multi-gym owner. So that will be completely different. So it's not winging it, but it is in a way. You just need to be really prepared because every day you're going to be doing something new.
Yeah.
So that, definitely is I think people think that the business owner is always so in control when actually they're the same as everyone else. Yeah. They're learning every day, and you just got to prepare yourself as much as possible for it.
Yeah. So if you were to go back then, what do you think you wish that you knew, like at the beginning of this journey, if there's anything?
I would say make quicker decisions. So I would say the average person is quite slow at making big decisions. And I think a quote I got told by one of my mentors was one of the heaviest things that holds you back are decisions you are waiting to make. So what I mean by that is you are where you are now from decisions made in the past. So you can get to where you want to quicker if you make that decision quicker. So for example, let's say if we get something back this week, let's say regarding one of the sort of properties we've looked at in terms of opening a second gym, and I sit there for 2-3 weeks going, oh, I'm not sure which one is it, that one, and then in that period of time, someone comes in and snatches one we wanted. That's 2 weeks that have passed where I could have made that decision in a day. So I've become 13 days slower than someone else, or the other way of looking at it, I've become 13 days quicker than someone else. And I think that's such a big thing. Like thinking that the decision where we are now is decisions perhaps I've made 2 years ago. I don't really know what decision that may have been, but it's a decision I made 2-3 years ago, 1 year ago, or even a couple of weeks ago is why I'm in the position I am in now. And I think that's a good way of looking at other things. I think if I was able to make some decisions quicker, For example, that marketing agency, I think I ummed and ahed about 6 months. Like that was, if we did that 6 months before, that's such a massive change. So that doesn't mean jump into things. You've got to think things, then logically think them through. It's not just a rash, like suddenly going, oh, I'm going to do this. But I think people can make decisions quicker than they actually do. And I think that's a big thing that I would definitely tell myself. If I went back, I'd definitely tell myself that.
Yeah, I like that. I think I read that in Stephen Bartlett's book, actually, something around if you're over 50% sure about a decision, do it.
Yeah.
So if you're 51% sure, if you've got, should I go for dinner tonight? If you're 51% sure that you want to go, just make that decision. Because otherwise, as you say, you spend so much time kind of umming and ahhing over the rest of that decision, but actually you've kind of already made it. So just go. If
100%.
you're over 50%, go with it.
And I think the average person as well, just day-to-day people, I actually think it's as high as 90% want to do something, but they concentrate on the 10%.
Yeah.
I actually think people are that, I guess, how do I say it? I wouldn't say they're not confident in themselves, they just don't trust themselves. So they're honing in on that 10% when actually 90% of them wants to do it. Yeah, like you said, if you're 51% sure, you're 51%, like go with the 51. Don't go with the 49.
You're
go
over
with the 51.
50%, so go for it. Yeah.
But people definitely are slightly too conservative when it comes to the bigger decisions. And that I've definitely got better at that. Now I think if something comes up, it's like, right, let's go for it. If feeling's there to go for it, let's do it. And then we can focus on the finer details when it comes there. But we've got that sort of background and knowledge that we can get things done now.
I guess it's that imposter syndrome that I think we all have slightly.
Yeah, definitely.
But overcoming that, and I don't know if that's something you have experienced or how you've kind of got past that, if you have.
Yeah, 100%. I remember when I first opened the gym, like massively.
Yeah.
And
wondering if anyone's going to turn up.
Well, it was wondering if anyone's going to turn up. Was I ready for it? Because I was, how old was I? 22, 23 maybe? Yeah, 23 when I opened the gym. So that's quite young to
really young.
Own a small group PT facility. And it was almost like I was looking around at the other people around me and they're all, I think the closest age someone was to me was like 5 years older. And obviously that's still quite young as well. But it was almost a sense of going, right, no, but we worked our socks off during COVID. Like we were in the position because we worked so hard to get here, like, and just get as much stuff done as we can and push the business as much as possible. And I think for me, I hid the imposter syndrome by being so busy. Right. It was like, I don't have time to be thinking about it, just keep going. I reckon let's say if there's a therapist listening to this, they're probably going, God, that's definitely the worst thing you should have done. But for me at the time, that was the best thing. And the productivity gave me so much more motivation, basically.
Yeah, and that's kind of something I wanted to touch on as well, where you said, like, because if someone listened to the previous episode and they hear about your day and you start at 4:30 and you don't get home till 9, and how do you look after yourself?
I think the business. I think the mental side of running the business gives me such joy.
Yeah.
That I would say I think I'm in a really healthy position. Obviously, you have days which are stressful, but I think there was a study done on stress where if you believe, it's quite crazy, if you believe that stress is good for you, your brain releases different chemicals than if you believe stress is bad for you. So I just go into it going, I'm putting myself through this stress. This stress is going to get me somewhere else. And I just think that's what keeps me positive and ticking on, really. I have this sort of drive to create something bigger than me, and I just stay very focused on that. Obviously, I train 5-6 times a week, so I keep my health very good. My food intake is very good. Protein levels, keep them high. And I did something called like a full body health MOT just to check on those things. It just gives me peace of mind, even though I know I'm healthy, but it's just quite good to look into it. And just self-care, really. Just making sure that, and self-respect. So if you say you're going to do something, making sure you do it. So if I say to myself, I'm going to go for a run before work, making sure I go for a run before work, because otherwise I might have like a bit of time where I'm tired, but I need to get some work done, and that will teach me that I'll go, we'll save it till later. But you can't, if you say to yourself you're going to do something, you have to do it. But you need to be the person who holds yourself accountable. And I think that definitely helps me when it comes to, obviously, my physical and mental health.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I guess that self-care is different for everybody.
Yeah, of
And
course.
you're obviously checking in with yourself, making sure you're okay. And I guess it's that thing also of like you're in that position now that you've always wanted to be in. As you said, like your business has never been as big as it is today
Yeah.
and then tomorrow. So past you would probably look up to where you are now and be like, oh my goodness, I wish I could be there.
It's
So now
quite-
that you're there, you're like,
yeah.
enjoy this, keep going, keep striving.
Yeah, it's quite crazy, really. Like you have that side of it, and then you also have the side of, I think I mentioned to you off air last time. I think I said, like, especially business owners, understand sort of how your brain works, because I know that I'm already at places that I told myself would make me happy. So, for example, you might sit there and go, "Oh, I'll be really happy when I make my first 15 grand month," for example, or "I'll be really happy when I open a gym. I'll be really happy when I start this venture," and you'll do it. And you'll be like, oh, great. And then it sort of goes a little bit. And then it's like, all right, we need to do the next thing. And then it's, oh, I'll be happy when. And as long as you know that's how your brain works, you can control it. So it's not a case of constantly chasing. It's then a case of constantly growing. Because otherwise people will go, I want 15 grand a month. And I want 20. And it's okay with wanting those sort of growth and keeping going. But you've got to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. Because none of those things will actually make you happy. It's just a case of it will make you more successful, great, but why are you doing it? What actually makes you happy? And I think the thing that makes me happy is seeing all my members all together. Like those community events are just incredible. Like when I'm stood there, I feel such pride and happiness when I'm there. And that takes away all the financial success we've had as a business and the growth we've had. That puts that stress, that is really what makes me go, oh, that stress was worth it. Looking at, bank statements or payment reports, it doesn't do as much for people as they think. Obviously, you need capital, and naturally, you need to be striving for more financial success. You have to, but none of those things will make you happy. And it's once you understand that the real growth actually comes in, because you're not then chasing money, you're chasing growth.
Yeah,
and that was a big game changer, really, because I definitely was like that when I first opened a business. It was like looking at numbers all the time. And you've got to look at your numbers, but it meant too much for me.
Yeah.
Like it was a case of, oh, good month. Not a good month. Oh, good month. And then my mood would change a bit, and it shouldn't.
Right.
And now, obviously, we got to the point of business where obviously we have to look at the financials, but it's not stressful anymore. It's like, oh, we just keep growing, keep reinvesting. And that came with systems. Making sure all our systems were in the right place, all our budgeting was in the right place, and everything sort of flowed without me having to do everything, basically. That created a lot more comfort.
Yeah, I guess it's looking at that bigger picture, because I don't think it's great personally for me to constantly be chasing that.
Yeah.
I'm never happy, but I like that perspective of you're kind of looking at it a different way, and you do know what makes you happy.
Yeah.
It's just you are striving for more.
Yeah,
so you are
definitely.
still happy where you are, but
Yeah.
you know that there's kind of more to it.
Yeah, now I'm much better. Before it was like that. It's just understanding that you are in a place that you told yourself would make you happy. So by understanding that, it then makes you happier, because you go, actually, those little
I
things.
wanted this.
Yeah, I wanted this, and also those little things aren't the things that actually make you happy. It's the thing that makes you happy is fulfilling yourself, like in day-to-day life, like getting all your work done, seeing friends and family, and being productive in day-to-day life. Just not missing a day makes you feel better. And that doesn't mean that, like, I just don't think financials actually bring people the happiness that they think it does, or the thing brings people the happiness that they think it does. Like people go, I'm going to buy a new car, and they get there and they're great, and they're really excited for 2 weeks, and then it's just getting back in the car every day. So actually, the car hasn't brought them happiness; it's brought them short-term happiness. Hasn't brought them massive happiness. And I think that's what helped me flip that on its head and go, actually, I now understand that I'm in a position that I told myself I would be super happy in. That now makes me happier, because I understand that actually these little things don't make me happy. It's the other things that come with it.
Yeah.
And that then, if anything, actually pushed on a little bit more growth, really.
Yeah. No, I like that perspective. And you're not the first person to say that about a car. Another guest we had previously actually did buy a nice car when they got to a certain point in their career, and then gave it back 2 weeks later, because
Really?
they were like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This hasn't brought me happiness.
No,
I thought
definitely.
it would. as you say, short term, like, oh, look at me in this nice car, but actually, gave it back because they just thought, what am I doing? This hasn't actually changed how I'm feeling. It's so much more. That happiness is from within, and it's so much more than those materialistic things. But again, I think that does come with age and growth and maturity, as you say.
Yeah,
and
100%.
You obviously have experienced that, and you know that that's the way it is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it makes a massive difference.
Oh, well, we're coming towards the end
again.
It's flown by. But as you know, kind of at the end of my podcast, I always ask my guests if they could give themselves one piece of advice, what would it be for their younger selves? You've already answered this question on the previous episode, and it was a brilliant answer. So I don't know if you've got any more advice you would give to your younger self, or looking at where you are now, what do you think you would tell your future self?
I would say, and looking probably, anything, either entrepreneurial or anything in life, dream big, but picture the journey. So what I mean by that is you have lots of people who dream the end product, and I'm not at my end product yet, but will dream the end product, but they won't picture what it takes to get there. I think if you dream really big, then that's fine, that's brilliant, definitely do it, but then really picture what it's going to take to get there. The hard work, the late nights, the dedication, the commitment, all those things. If you can picture it in your brain, you're then 1% more ready for it, and that 1% might make a difference. So don't just dream what it is. If you've got a destination, plan out how it is to get there.
Nice. I love that. That's such a good answer, and I think it's so true, because even myself, I know that I've made so many big dreams but haven't always had that plan, and then you do get stuck, or it feels really unachievable sometimes if you don't know how you're going to get there. So it's definitely something I'm trying to do a lot more. So I'm going to listen back to this episode and go through it and make sure that I do.
Definitely. Those small little habits, changes, jobs that you need to make every day, like if you make lots of little ones, they add up to one big one. So that's a really good way of
it's so true.
Yeah.
Well, Conor, where can people find you if they want to follow you, follow your gym? How can they get in touch with you?
Instagram, myself is Conor Bull _. The gym is CB_training club. That's probably the easiest way to get hold of us. Facebook is exactly the same at. And if anyone sort of needs help business wise, or is a coach, or if anything, just drop us a message. I'd love sort of helping others and helping them sort of succeed as well. So it's great to see. And like I said last time, it's really good to see how much this podcast is growing.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say the same to you. I'm excited to see where you go. Obviously now I follow you and we've been in contact, and I'm excited to see like the next gym opening or future plans that you have. And I know that it's just going to continue. So it feels a real privilege to have had you on a podcast twice, because I know that there's going to be amazing things for you. So keep going. As you say, dream big, put that plan in place, and I know that you'll do it.
Well, thank you very much. You too.
Oh, it's been amazing. Thank you so much, Conor.
No, awesome.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please continue to like, subscribe, share, and follow us on socials. See you next week for another episode.